Howdy, howdy do, Who fans, and welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And welcome aboard for episode 314.
One day, I shall come back. Yes, I shall come back. Until then, there must be no regrets, no tears, no anxieties. Just go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine.
Our lives are different to anybody else's. That's the exciting thing. Nobody in the universe can do what we're doing.
I've reversed the polarity of the neutron flow, so the TARDIS should be free of the force field now.
You may be a doctor, but I'm the doctor. The definite article, you might say.
The trouble with time travel is, one never seems to find the time.
Change, my dear, and it seems not a moment too soon.
Unlimited rice pudding, etc., etc.
I am the Doctor!
For now, for this moment, I am the Doctor again.
The ground beneath our feet is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. And the entire planet is hurtling around the sun at 67,000 miles an hour, and I can feel it. We're falling through space, you and me.
People assume that time is a strict progression of cause to effect, but actually, from a non-linear, non-subjective viewpoint, it's more like a big ball of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff.
I could be a curator. I'd be great at curating. I'd be the great curator.
I could retire and do that. I'm the Doctor. I've lived for over 2,000 years, and not all of them were good. I've made many mistakes, and it's about time that I did something about that.
Bit of adrenaline, dash of outrage, and a hint of panic knitted my brain back together. I know exactly who I am. I'm the Doctor. Sorting out fair play throughout the universe.
Hey, Doctor Who fans. Welcome back to another week. Hope you've all kept safe and healthy. You've had a cracking week and you've all managed to do something Doctor Who related. Indeedy. Yeah. Apologies if Adam and I sound a little bit rough this week. We're a couple of old we've got battle wounds and
we're falling apart at the seams.
Yeah, so I've got a rubbishy head cold, and Adam's got toothache. So we might make it through.
We're getting old, dude.
Getting old, that's it. Yeah, I had a bit of a sore throat the other night. I was like, oh, here we go. Mr. COVID has knocked on the door. What's he saying?
Don't give him sympathy, ladies and gentlemen. He's made a rod for his own back. If anyone else has got a cold, he never gives any sympathy, do you, mate?
I'm really terrible for that, yeah.
Yeah.
My family hate it, yeah. I just can't do it, mate. Anyone that's got a cold. If anyone's seriously ill, if you've got like really bad flu or you've got some sort bad, then fine. But people that have got just a standard head cold, a bit of a, I just can't do the whole sympathy thing, mate. It's just something that's built into me. I just like, oh, shut up, get on with it. So I expect
you have to be literally on death's door to get any sympathy from Gary.
Yeah. So I expect no sympathy. It's all good. But I did a COVID test the morning after that. I thought, oh no, because even though I've had my first jab and my second one's in a few weeks' time, I thought, oh no, even though I've had the first jab. But then I thought, well, it's really weird. I've not been in contact with anyone. So I did a test. It was negative, and that was all good. So I don't know. I've picked this cold up from somewhere. So if I sound a bit sniffly or croaky, I do apologise, listener. It's just,
Oh, gravel voice.
Yeah, and Adam's got a bit of a too, got a throbbing cheek. So
I feel like someone's whacked me in the face. I feel like someone's punched me.
Yeah,
I've got terrible toothache. I'm on the old antibiotics. Yeah. Go on, listen to us. What's happened?
I know, downhill very quickly.
Very quickly, yeah.
Yeah, so by the end of the show, we might sound like this or we might sound completely awful and you'd have switched off by then. So who knows? But yeah, so I hope you've had a cracking week. And I assume that some of you would have had a good week if you had your season 24 Blu-ray collection sets delivered. It was that time again. It used to be 3 times a year. We've now got that biannual event where we get the collection, which is cool. But mine's still in the bloody packaging, mate. I've not had a chance to even inspect the beauty of it and stuff. But I know you've had a look, haven't you?
Well, yeah, I was going to say, it's funny you say that because I only thought last night, because I was thinking, whenever the night before we were recording, I'm like, what am I going to talk about on the waffle tomorrow? What have I been doing? And I thought, well, this week's easy because, I've been ploughing through the season 24 sets. That's good. And I thought, I haven't seen Gary post a picture of his. And I thought, well, he must have bought it because I know you love McCoy's era. So I went. I was like stalking you. I was like, let's check his Insta in case I've missed it. No. Let's check his Twitter. No. So I was like, maybe. I thought it's not been lost in the post again. Is it like was that season 10 or season 8 or something?
It was the Pertwee set.
Went to your old house.
Yeah.
So you've got it. You can. That's reassuring because I thought I was worried. But you just haven't had a chance to open it yet.
No, it came. It was all good. I ordered it from Amazon this time because I think it was that time, way like months and months ago, where Zoom.co.uk were going through some kind of weirdness. They didn't have. Do you remember they didn't have it on their website to order?
Yeah, they changed owners or something, so it's still called Zoom, but I don't know, there was some change of ownership or something.
Yeah,
so they never got it. Yeah.
It was weird, there wasn't. Yeah, so I had to order it from Amazon, which wasn't too bad. It arrived on the day it said it was going to, which was Monday. So that was all fine. But I just brought it upstairs and just flung it on the bookshelf, still in the padded envelope, and forgot about it, mate. I've just had a distracted week, I suppose, of other stuff. So, but yeah, it's, I've got a weekend planned of watching plenty of stuff, like catching up on stuff this weekend. So I need to watch some Star Wars stuff. I need to watch Loki. I need to watch Doctor Who. So yeah, it's going to be a sofa weekend, I think.
You're going to love it. I mean, it is, God, the amount of extras. It's incredible. I feel I sort of been watching it and found myself just being on the sofa, like still 4 hours later, and my other half comes in. It's like, you're not still watching television. Go and do something. I'm like, I just can't stop. I've just been ploughing through it. So I've watched all the behind the sofas, and I'll tell you what, you're in for a real treat because Peter Davison and Colin Baker are just brilliant on it. They're so sort of funny but also quite frank and honest, because I think because Sylv and Colin and Peter all really get on well, don't they? So they can have that sort of bants. So, they're saying stuff that if anybody else is saying it, you might be like, oh, that's a bit harsh. But, because we know they're friends, it's really funny. The behind the sofas are brilliant. I've watched all of them. I've watched Around the Doctor's Table, which was really good. I've watched the extended Time and the Rani, because every story gets like an extended version of it. I watched that yesterday. Hardly any difference, actually. It's a bit weird because normally a lot of them are just like 5 seconds longer, the scene's 5 seconds longer, or there's like a tiny little extra line. Normally they just put those trims in separately, don't they? Film trims. But they've sort of put them all back in, and it doesn't really add anything to the story. But I haven't got to Downton the Bannermen yet, and my friend said that one is the best extended. It actually adds some nice bits in. So I'm really sort of looking forward to watching these extended versions, because like you, it's a season I've seen loads. I've watched these stories a million times, so to get to see them even with the slight alteration like Time and the Rani, like it's got you're gonna crack up when you see the beginning. So just to sort of be brief about this, but the very beginning post credits bit, there's like the TARDIS being shot by lasers through space. Well, it starts with like, it looks like Blockbusters. This funny sort of hexagonal rainbow thing starts flying around the TARDIS, chasing it and shooting at it. And I'm like, what the hell is that? I was like, that's not a new effect, is it? I was thinking, if they put new effects on this, that looks terrible. Surely that's not new. I don't think it is. I think this is just some original 80s effect that obviously was cut at the time, but when you see it, I was like, what is this? But yeah, I've been watching that, and I watched the Patricia Quinn interview as well, which was just fascinating and funny and brilliant, and some of the raw studio footage, just hours of it, mate, hours. I just let it play because a lot of the time it's just the actors stood around, waiting for their cue. They just put it on raw footage. It's so it can be a bit sort of tiresome just sat there watching it. So I just sort of put it on while I was doing other stuff, so you can hear sort of the directors, and but even that's fascinating. Like you see the builders coming in and moving the TARDIS prop off the quarry, and it looks pretty heavy actually. They're just sort of 1, 2, 3, lift it off and all this sort of stuff. Yeah, it's brilliant, and I've still got so much left to watch. I'm devouring it. It's just brilliant. It's so nice to have another box set, and my other half can't understand it. It's like, but it's all the old stuff. You've seen it all before, and I'm like, no, there's hours of new material. It's like getting a brand new set. It's although we have seen the stories before, there's so much new stuff. It's brilliant. You're in for a real treat. You really are. Because I know you love McCoy the same as me.
Yeah, dude.
And, yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah,
it's a wacky old season as well. 24.
It's crazy, and it's nice to see it getting a bit of love because it is the season that I remember when it was announced. You know, I see some comments, people, "Oh, I won't be buying that one. That's this is the worst season of Who," and all this sort of stuff. And I think it does, like a lot of things, it does gain a sort of new love. I think for people that were like, actually, do you know, I've always hated Time the Rani, but actually now I've just watched it as a bit of fun and in context and stuff. I actually thought it was all right, and you know, it's just nice to see people, you know, giving a bit of love to this season. Yeah, because I love it. I've always loved it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to. I probably won't watch any of the episodes first. I'll probably watch the special features because. Yeah. Don't want to be accused of going back and watching old stuff again. It's funny, isn't it? Other half is like, why are you watching that for? You've seen it like multiple times.
Well, I also got because I put it next to season 26. And I got you haven't bought it twice, have you? That's the same, isn't it? And I'm like, no, that's it's the same Doctor. It's a different season. I was like, oh, you don't understand these things.
Sometimes they just don't understand, mate.
just because it's the same face. You know, or we probably thought I'd bought two versions of the same box or something. You know, like when you get a variant. I was being accused of that, I think. But yeah, they don't understand, mate.
No.
Have you got your own little room to watch these things, or do you have to watch them?
No, I have to watch them on the quote unquote the big telly.
Oh, I see. Because I used to have a DVD player in the bedroom. I used to just sneak upstairs and watch them, but unfortunately, I don't have that anymore. So I have to watch it when I can get the television, and so that could be a bit awkward.
Yeah, no region, mate. Same deal. Yeah. So yeah, that's I literally haven't done anything Doctor Who wise, buddy. Other than watch all 6 parts of Planet of the Spiders, obviously.
Well, that was the other thing as well, because I kept thinking, I was watching all this stuff, and I kept thinking, right, I've got to get Planet of the Spiders in as well. So I was like, that's going to get moaned about, because I've been watching all this season. And it's like, oh, by the way, I've got to put another Doctor Who on now. Oh, for God's sake. Yeah, because, 6 episodes. Whew.
Yeah.
I did it.
You did it. Nice one, dude. Yeah, I'll report back next week. I'm sure it'll all be good thoughts and vibes and stuff for season 24, but I'll do that this weekend.
Love it.
Yeah. Cool. Right, before we get on with the news then, remember to follow and listen for free to our podcast on whatever podcast app you get your podcast on. We'd love to have you as a follower. That way you won't miss a show when it lands every single Friday. You can do that through any of those apps and networks and so on, or just head over to the website, bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. You can listen to all of the shows on there for free. For free. And if you use one of the podcast apps like Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or the IMDb for podcasts website, podchaser.com, on all those things you can leave a review and stuff. So if you've got a minute to do that, if you like the show, that'd be awesome. And thank you to all of you guys that have left reviews recently. Very, very nice words. So thank you very much for that. On the website, you can also read all of the reviews and articles from our writing team, and there are links to go off to the socials, which we're on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. Come and give us a like and a follow over there so we can chat Doctor Who with you guys throughout the week, and we have a free Discord server as well. Link on the website. Come and register for that. It takes about 24 seconds. I think it's nice and quick. And we've got a really, really cool community of Who fans over there, which is growing all the time. We've got quite a big server over there now on Discord. So come and jump in and waffle some more Doctor Who over there as well. And also my co-host Adam is on YouTube under the name, as always, it is the Geek's Handbag.
Geek's Handbag, yeah. Go and have a look at my latest vids.
Go and check him out. Yeah, and Adam is on the socials too, under the same name, the Geek's Handbag. Go and seek him out. Give him a like and a follow. Indeed.
Yeah, go and check out my socials. Yeah, I love like Insta and stuff.
Indeed.
Spent about 2 hours taking photos for Instagram yesterday. It just couldn't get this figure to come out because of the lighting that's driving me mad. I was thinking it would probably only get about 12 likes, but I am going to get this photo right. I'll put it through a million filters. It'll be fine.
The curse of content creation.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyways, enough with that. We have got a couple of news stories to go through this week, which is good. So let's land the TARDIS and do that. The first story to get through is a bit of a debunker, a bit of a a bit of a thing. So over the last few weeks, well, especially about a month ago, 6 weeks ago, we started reporting on a bunch of websites and media outlets here in the UK that have started running these stories. It almost feels like a daily basis now, where they do the replacement for Jodie thing, where they just round up all of their crazy predictions about which actor's going to take over, and then they've got the bookies also doing all the odds and all that stuff. And the name that's kept popping up all the time in every single article is Olly Alexander, who is the guy that you will know him if you watched the Russell T Davies series It's a Sin, or if you listen to his music. He doesn't put music out under the name Olly Alexander. It's Years and Years. So this name's popped up all the time, and it seems like he's had enough. I think he's been... well, there is one small train of thought that thinks that this could be a purposeful distraction for a time, if it is true. I can't see it being true, but it could be that. But I think he's probably getting sick and tired of being asked this question in every interview that he does at the moment, because his name's been dragged through this every week for the past, 3 or 4 months now with these articles. Every time he does an interview, they probably round it off with, so, Doctor Who, and all that stuff, and he's probably getting sick of it. So his agent has put out a statement. His agent's called Martha Kinn, and she says, even though Olly is often contacted by Cybermen, oh God, I'm afraid I have to exterminate this speculation. Oh. As nice as it is to see interest in this story regenerate, it just isn't true. And then she added, as ood as it might sound, Olly is focusing on his music for the time being. End quote. So a nice short little pun-filled statement from his agent.
Fantastic. Yeah, 10 points.
10
Martha.
points.
What's the name? Martha what?
Martha Kinn, yeah.
Martha Kinn.
Good, isn't it? Yeah, so I quite like the as ood as it might sound. I like that one.
Yeah.
So there you go, dude. He's put out a statement to say, flattering, I think, that my name's been brought into the mix, but it's not going to happen. So I'm kind of buying this one. I think he's probably got more stuff that he wants to do rather than being confined to a very heavy schedule of doing Doctor Who for the next X amount of years. Because as we know from all of the actors that we've seen special features or interviews from, they feel like absolute crap after about 2 years of doing it onwards. So he's probably got other stuff he wants to do that's not feeling crap. So what do you reckon, dude? Like I said, the other thing that might be, if he is considering it, this might just be a diversion to get people off the scent, and then it's going to be a big ta-da, I'm actually the Doctor. So I can't see it being that, but what do you reckon?
No, I can't see it. I mean, it's funny because if this rumour had come out before I'd seen him in It's a Sin, I'd have been like, oh, don't be ridiculous. But it gave a great performance in It's a Sin.
He was awesome.
And proved, he proves he's actually a really good little actor. But no, I mean, I think he'd be an interesting Doctor Who. I certainly wouldn't be against him being the Doctor. I think he could be really good. He just strikes me as too young, but I'm hesitant to say that because of Matt Smith. I thought exactly the same with Matt, and he's one of my favourite Doctors. So if it turned out to be true, I would be all for it. I think he'd be fine, but I think there's probably better people out there to play the role, and I don't think he's in the right place to do it. I mean, maybe in a few years' time or something, but yeah, I can't see it either. I think it's the sort of typical name that the tabloids would pick, and it cracked me up that the Sun put it as fact, the Sun newspaper, Olly Alexander to replace Jodie Whittaker, as if it's fact confirmed. And someone found a screenshot of the exact same article from a couple of years ago saying Chris Marshall confirmed as new Doctor Who and all this. So yeah, can't see it.
Well, in terms of age, dude, Matt Smith was 26 when he took on the role. Olly Alexander is 30. So,
is he?
Yeah.
I thought he was about 19.
Yeah, he's 30, dude.
Oh, no, really?
So age is not a factor.
He's never 30.
He's 30,
really?
Yeah.
Well, I'm shocked, but well, I take it back, Ollie. I mean, yeah, as I said, I wouldn't. Yeah, I think he could be an interesting Doctor. I don't know if he's got the gravitas to bring to the role, but be interesting. But I can't see it. I think he's only just started going solo, isn't he? Even though he's kept the name years and years, he's only just started his solo music. So I can't see him just quitting that to be the Doctor, because, like you said, it's too time consuming. So can't see it.
Yep.
Right, on to other news. This is sad news, mate. This is very sad news. Jackie Lane has passed away at the age of 79. Of course, we know her best as the first Doctor's companion, Dodo Chaplet. And, of course, she's famously the character, probably one of the worst exits ever for a Doctor Who character, wasn't it? She didn't even get to say goodbye. It was just, where's Dodo? Oh, she's doing something. She's a bit busy, Doctor. Oh, well, I'm off. Just kind of got left behind in one of my favourite First Doctor stories, actually, the War Machines.
War Machines,
so, yeah. So it's very sad. Kind of out of the blue, this as well, because Phantom Events, I think, actually announced that it confirmed that she had passed away, and she was a very private person, so we never really heard much from Jackie Lane. So it sort of felt even more sort of out of the blue, if you see what I mean, because we don't really hear much about her. She's a very private person, and I think she was a little bit miffed at the way her character was written out of the show. I think the new producer at the time, Innes Lloyd, decided he wasn't going to renew her contract and just literally just said, no, Dodo's gone. And Jackie was quoted as sort of getting her own back a few years later. So she said, I think I would have liked a more dramatic ending. My farewell was a bit of an anticlimax. Still, I got my revenge. I now run a voiceover agency, and Innes Lloyd, the producer at the time, once asked me to find him work. I reminded him that he once sacked me from Doctor Who and said a very firm no. So she did get a revenge. A very shy woman, Jackie Lane was always reluctant to involve herself in Doctor Who fandom. She gave very few interviews about her time on the show, but she did make an appearance at the time on Doctor Who's 50th anniversary. Did she?
What was that then?
But did make an appearance.
I can't remember what she was in for the 50th stuff. Yeah,
I can't remember being her in the 50th. So I'm reading that online. But sorry, that's why I just sort of stopped suddenly, because I don't remember her being in the 50th, but I could be wrong. Anyway, yes, Jackie Lane. She was 79. And just quickly, the other quote about William Hartnell. She said that she found William Hartnell to be very friendly, but he was struggling at the time with all the different changes to the cast, apparently. But she said they got on well, although she never really got to know him that well.
Right.
But she liked Bill Hartnell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So I think she appeared on that live thing. Remember Doctor Who Live, the after party?
Was she on that shambles, was she?
Yeah.
God, no wonder she didn't want anything to do with fandom after that. Because I remember that was a disaster, wasn't it? I remember that. So like they didn't have One Direction on and stuff. And
it wasn't great. It wasn't Doctor Who's finest hour, put it that way. Yeah.
The moth was in the middle of it, wasn't he? Lashed up.
Yeah.
I remember that. Anyway, yeah. So Jackie Lane, 79.
Yeah, goodbye, Jackie. Yeah, and what a cracking story to be in, though. I know she didn't have an extended time on the show, but the War Machines, it's not a bad
it's
one.
Great one. Yeah, it's a good story. That.
Yeah. Rightio. That is news done with. It's time to get on to our review for this week. So, buddy, what have we got?
Yeah, so it's the end of an era for Jon Pertwee with his last story, Planet of the Spiders.
I'm going to Metebelis III.
Took the one last perfect crystal of power. I searched all time and all space for it. I must have it.
Who are you?
They call me the Great One.
Why can't I see you?
You will, Doctor, you will, all in good time. But not until you bring me the crystal you stole from Metebelis.
No, never.
Doctor, help me! Come quickly! You will, Doctor, you will.
Spiders have strange properties, a Metebelis crystal. Can affect the mind.
Mind? You mean it could drive someone mad?
Pretty. I command you, go.
I have come to give you the power you seek.
More power than you dared to dream of. Stop! If you come any further, Doctor, you will die!
Doctor, please wake up!
You're trying to increase your mental powers to infinity.
Exactly! All praise to the Great One.
Put your hands in the air.
I shall be the ruler of the entire universe!
A decent one, that one.
Wow.
Good trailer, that one. So, Planet of the Spiders then, our farewell story for Mr. Jon Pertwee. It was first broadcast back on the 4th of May 1974 and finished up on the 8th of June the same year. 6 parts. It was written by a combination of Robert Sloman and uncredited Barry Letts. I assume Barry did some fiddling afterwards. It was directed by Barry Letts as well and overseen by Terence Dicks. It stars Jon Pertwee as the Doctor, Elizabeth Sladen. Yay, Liz. We did Sarah Jane, wrapped it up, and now she's back again. Yeah. She's all good as Sarah Jane. And then we have a fairly sizable supporting cast for this one. Fairly sizable indeedy. And synopsis is as follows. The blue crystal that the Doctor took from Metebelis.
No, Metebelis.
From Metebelis III in a previous adventure is desperately sought by the Eight Legs, a race of mutated spiders, as the final element in their plan for universal domination. With help from an old mentor, the Doctor realises that the only way to foil the plot is to make the ultimate sacrifice. The Doctor must risk death to return to the cave of the Great One and save the universe. Oh, what are your thoughts straight off the bat with this one, dude? And I won't accept a chant. Thank you.
No, enough chant. Enough of the chanting. No.
That stays in your head for about 3 hours after you've watched it.
Oh, it does. Yes, hypnotic. I'll tell you what, just before I get on to my thoughts, I'm just looking at the cast list. No wonder Doctor Who never had any money. How'd they pay all these people? The cast list during the Jon Pertwee era is unbelievable, isn't it? Every time we do a Third Doctor story, the cast list is incredible. The amount of people they had. But Planet of the Spiders, I like this one. I think it's a good story. But every time I watch it, I'm slightly frustrated by it because I think it's got all these great elements to be an absolute belter of a classic. But it just slightly falls short in a couple of places. And I don't know, even though I really like it, I just think, God, there was an absolute classic there. It just needed a couple of little tweaks because the story sort of doesn't seem to flow properly. Like, you get this brilliant chase sequence in episode 2, which I know is complete filler. Absolutely ridiculous, doesn't add anything to the story, but I love it. I think it's brilliant. You've got like the Whomobile, Bessie, a helicopter, a hovercraft. It's unbelievable.
That's where the money went as well, mate, on the cast and on the chasing.
Yeah, it has to be seen to be believed. It's just, I don't care that it's filler and it's irrelevant. I just love that chase sequence because it's like they've lined up all these different vehicles for the Doctor to chase after whatever his name, Lupton in. It's just ludicrous, and that helicopter scares me because it just that just looks like you could bat it out the sky with a tennis racket. It's just so small and feeble. I don't know how anybody could get in something like that and actually fly it. But that, I'm watching it yesterday and I'm thinking every time I get to the chase sequence, I always think it's like towards the end of the story, but it's episode 2 and I'm thinking, but this should be near the end. This feels like epic. And yet, so it's episode 2. And then after that, you get 4 episodes where it kind of sort of plods to what I have to say is a really understated and slightly disappointing regeneration scene. But I'm thinking if you'd had that sort of, if you'd sort of mixed things up a bit and had that chase sequence towards the end, or even if it was part 4 or 5, it would really ramp up the story. But it just feels like after that chase sequence, the sort of next 4 episodes, although I don't find them boring, there is a lot of going around in circles. We go, even Lupton ends up back at the meditation center, and then we go to Metebelis III, a couple of times. And, it starts to sort of go around in circles because that's what happens when you have 6 parts. You've got to fill them up somehow, and you've only got so many sets you can afford to build and so many locations you can go to. So it does feel a bit repetitive, and I don't know. I just felt like if you'd rearranged some of the episodes and a few of the scenes, I think it could be a belter, because there is a lot in this story I love. I mean, I think Pertwee is superb in it, and we talk about Tom Baker being subdued in the Gopolis and that whole season 18. Tom's a lot moodier. Watching this again yesterday, I think Pertwee, he's not moody, but he's so more subdued than the sort of Third Doctor that we see in Inferno, for example, who's, bounding around the sets here, there, and everywhere, giving commands. He's really subdued and laid back in this, and he gives a really touching performance, which does add to the story, which at times is sort of floundering a bit. And you get like his mentor we get to meet. I love all that stuff. You got this lovely character of Tommy, who, when he stares into crystal, transforms his personality. You got all these lovely things. But somehow it just doesn't come together to be like a 10 out of 10. That was a belter of a story for Pertwee to go out on. It kind of sort of limps a little bit towards the end. So I like it a lot, but I think it's just not perfect, unfortunately. It's just not quite up to the epic story you want the Third Doctor to go out on after, because he's such a good Doctor, and he's had some really good stories up until this point. So good, but could have been better, I think.
Yeah, no, I read you, man. That chase scene as well. That would have been great in episode 6.
I just can't understand why it was put at the start.
Yeah, just the big climatic ending. Maybe the Doctor gets shot out of the sky in that little helicopter thing. And
that helicopter,
that's his regeneration,
because
he's been. It's almost like it's like a little. I don't know. It just seems tiny and very flimsy. I wouldn't certainly go up in it. That's for sure.
You wouldn't get me anywhere near it. I don't think I could fit in it, to be honest. And I think Jon Pertwee did a lot of his own stunts, because he loved that. He loved gadgets. And he loved anything like that, didn't he? If there was a hovercraft, he wanted to drive it. And he does a lot of the stunts himself. But I think they stopped him from doing the helicopter.
Yeah.
Although I think he was allowed to go up in it, but it's not him in the long shots. But
no. He hovered above the ground for a bit.
Yeah.
And in the hovercraft, he mucks in though. In the hovercraft scene,
he's in there.
There's a couple of long shots where it's a stunt. It's whoever the stunt person was. I can't remember his name. It's he's kind of speeding over the mounds and stuff like that. But the close-ups of John in the hovercraft, he's soaking wet. He's in his costume, but his hair's all drenched, and he's still not smiling, but he's still got that kind of cool, like, this is amazing. Like, as an actor, he's like, this is amazing. I'm getting to drive a hovercraft, which is cool.
You can tell he just loves that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So I read you, man. I think the story overall, it's you're right. Yeah, it's kind of on the cusp of being a right belter, or like a proper classic. But it just, for me, it's for one, it's the spiders for me.
Yeah.
Not how they look per se, but certainly they just don't seem. I think it might be the voices, maybe. They just seem a little bit... Well, for a start, they get irritating after listening to them for about 2 minutes. And especially the end sequence where he goes to see, the Great One. And the voice is even more like just this shrilling, like, kind of voice. But the other thing was there doesn't seem to be any sense of urgency in the story either. So we get the fact that it's all about the crystal. We get that. But there's just a few scenes where you would think that it would be like, right, we're on it. We need to get the crystal back now. This is important. But there's a couple of scenes where Lupton's like, we don't have the crystal. Not a problem. Let's just go to the planet of the spiders, no pun intended anyway, and we'll just have a chat. We'll tell them we still have the crystal, even though we don't. Yeah, it'll be all right. And then when the Doctor gets the crystal, when he brings the magician guy who doesn't realise that he's got these powers so much. And
I like that idea.
Yeah, the Doctor's like, well, actually, you do have these powers because you messed up a little bit, but you still knew the answer, so I could see through it, sort of thing. He is... he gets the crystal delivered, doesn't he? In a nice little padded envelope, which is weird. And even then, he's just like, this thing. Oh yeah, I'll play with that later. And then they carry on talking, and then later on in the story, the guy who's like, I think he's got some kind of mental problem. The guy that is in the monastery. Tommy, yeah, played by John Cain. Very well, really good performance from John Cain.
Lovely, yeah.
He kind of gets exposed to the power of the crystal, and then it turns his mind, and it's very unpolitically correct later when Sarah Jane's like, "Oh, you're normal now."
Yeah, I know. I cringed at that.
Yeah, but you know what? It's kind of his IQ has been accelerated up because of the crystal and stuff like that. Even that
I like
whole
the fact he says, "I hope not." Though it kind of like it was a cringy line, but I like the fact he says, "Oh, I do hope not."
Exactly,
kind of
yeah.
on its head, yeah.
That's awesome, yeah. But that whole part of the story where he's got the crystal, and because he's the last person that they would expect to be in custodian of it, everyone else is just sort of plodding around. It's like, yeah, we need to get this. The crystal is the key. Without the crystal, we can't really do anything. But everyone's just like, we'll probably get round to that later.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. There doesn't seem to be any sense of. I know it's weird to say, but it's almost like they needed a little bit of. It would be impossible at the time, but it needs a little bit of modern Who brushed over it. We need a lot of running down corridors and a lot of a sense of urgency. So other than those two things, it's a really good story. I wasn't disappointed with it. I think I've only seen this one a few times. I think it's like the third time I've watched it over the years. And every time I've watched it, I've always thought, oh, this is really good. Like, especially the first couple of episodes, it's good. But then it just plods. It's a real plodder, this one.
Yeah, you're right about the urgency. I think that's why I think the chase sequence is bizarre to be so early on in the story, because I think that's the thing. You get that epic stuff at the start, and then it really does plod a bit after that. And it's not plod as in, oh god, it's not boring. I still find it a good story to watch, but like you said, you're absolutely right, there's no urgency, and there's no build up really to the Doctor regenerating. And some people might like that because it's different, it's a bit understated, but I don't know, I found it, because I love the scene when he's talking to his guru, his old teacher, and he's like, you must face your fear, Doctor, this is your fault, you stole the crystal, your greed and all this. And I think Terrence Dicks didn't like that. He's like, no, the Doctor shouldn't be flawed. But I quite like it. The Doctor has to face his fear, but it just feels a bit anticlimactic. I always feel quite let down by the regeneration at the end. Although I love the fact that the guru is there with him at the end. I don't know, I'm so conflicted by it. There are so many bits I love. It just, like you said, I just feel slightly frustrated. It feels like it's just so close to being amazing, and it's just feels a little bit flat. It's like, here we go again.
Yeah.
Roll credits, and you get this strange shot of Tom Baker not looking anything like Tom Baker, which I always think's weird as well. I think it's just the angle with his nose.
And his hair.
Shot
as
of Tom and hair, yeah. Looks nothing like Tom.
Yeah, he hasn't got the big permed mushroom shape sort of head, has he? He actually looks quite dapper. He looks,
I wonder if they've sort of done his hair to look like Pertwee.
Maybe. They've straightened a lot of it out, haven't they? And parted it. And
yeah, it just doesn't look like him at all. And it's a really quick fade just between the two actors as well. There's no special effect or anything added to sort of jazz it up at all. It's a really, and that must have been a conscious decision. It must have been a bit like Moffat with going from Matt Smith to Peter Capaldi. That snap, they just wanted to do something quick, and that's it. New Doctor's here, let's go. But I don't know.
Yeah, the regen, to be honest with you, for me, Nick Courtney was the best thing about that whole regen scene at the end, because it is a bit lame. Let's be honest. It is a bit. Yeah. We don't really see anything. We don't even know anything's wrong with him to begin with. He gives the crystal to the Great One, and he knows that if she starts to use it, this kind of feedback loop thing that he's warned her about, he knows it's going to destroy her and everything, but he still does it. And but you don't see anything wrong with him. He just walks away, and then cut to the Brig and Sarah Jane, and they're like, "Oh, we haven't seen him. He's been gone for a few weeks," and he just turns up, and something's wrong with him. We don't know quite exactly what's going on, and he collapses. It's just really lame. And like you said at the end, the regen is just like, it's not really. I think they tried to make it emotional as well, because I think Liz Sladen's trying really hard to bring the emotion to that scene, because she starts crying, and then the Doctor's like, "A tear, Sarah Jane," and then he.
Which is a nice line, yeah.
And then, but that's it. And then, like you said at the end, the wipe, you know, the fade between Pertwee and Baker's really quick, and then Baker's face is only on screen for like 2.5 seconds, and that's it. It's gone. But Nick Courtney's just brilliant, because I don't know if it's Nick Courtney doing this or if it was written as the Briggs to do this, but he's got that I just can't be bothered with this anymore kind of vibe about him. He's got that. He's first of all with Sarah Jane, he's just like, oh, don't worry, you know, he'll turn up, you know, turns up from time to time. And once I saw him, you know, he's been gone for months, and then he turned up with a new face, and you know, he's just very matter of fact about it. And then when he's going through it, he's just like, he's sort of got this one eyebrow raised kind of look about him. He's like, here we go again. He's just got that. I just can't be doing with this. Not again. Not again. He's just brilliant in that scene.
You got to love the Brig. I've got to admit, I was confused why the first time I watched this, because I think, you know, I was so excited to see, you know, the very, very first time I ever watched this, I was so excited to see how the third Doctor sort of regenerated, like, because I didn't really know. And I think I was confused. I was like, so he's delivered the crystal. There was sort of this build up about him facing his greatest fear. So I was like, what? So what's killed him? I couldn't work it out. I was like, is it the spider? Like, because like you said, he kind of walks off, and then you know he's supposed to be gone months. So he falls out the TARDIS, something about being lost in the vortex or something. And I'm like, but what's happened to him? But I think it's supposed to be. It's just not made clear on screen, is it? Is it supposed to be some radiation or something from the crystal? You know, it's not that clear on screen, I have to be honest.
No, it's not. Yeah, that's exactly it. So when she puts the crystal in place and starts using it, the Doctor absorbs like huge. It's a bit like the end of time. You know, when Tennant goes in and he absorbs all the radiation, and he's fine for a bit, and then he pops it. It's that kind of thing. Like Russell just ripped this off in a way. So the Doctor's fine. He seems fine. But then the other weird thing as well is that they kind of clumsily, it's a little bit weird. It's like when Sarah says, "Where have you been?" He's like, "Oh, I got lost in the time. I got lost in the time vortex for a bit, but I'm all right now." And this supposedly happens for weeks. So, by the way, Nick Briggs, that's probably a whole Big Finish series you've got there. What the third Doctor did those weeks, because for people on Earth, for Sarah Jane, it was weeks. For the Doctor, it could have been decades, hundreds of years that he was lost in the time vortex. So there's a whole series of stories you could do there. But it just seems a bit clumsy. Like, what Doctor, where have you been? And he just can't seem to... It just seems unlikely, because they bigged the TARDIS up earlier. You know, who says it to the Doctor? You almost describe, I think it's Yates that says, you describe the TARDIS as being alive. And he's like, yes, I do, don't I? And so I think they kind of give the TARDIS a lot of credit. Like, you know, so it seemed weird that the TARDIS wouldn't self-land somewhere safe. It just seemed clumsy, dude. A little bit.
Yeah, it should be made more explicit. I think exactly what's happened to him. I'm surprised. And again, that sort of makes me feel like it just feels a little bit unfinished, you know, like, I don't know whether, I suppose it's Doctor Who of the time, they kind of filmed it, that's, you know, we've got to get this done, the effects are on, let's get it out there. You know, I think today's television made differently, they would have, you know, definitely sort of tweaked a few bits here and there. You mentioned Yates there. This is one of the things I do like about this story, is that they do bring in elements from the Third Doctor's era, from previous stories, into this. So Yates is back. After being, you know, a traitor in brackets, he's trying to find peace at this, you know, meditation place. He's trying to redeem himself, which is cool. So I like the fact that they're redeeming the character of Yates. I love the fact that the crystal's central to the story, and I agree with you that it could have been utilized a lot better. Like the urgency of this crystal could definitely be better. But I love the fact that they bring that back, and you know, we get that love letter from Joe Grant, and you know, that's all great. So we sort of hear from Joe, and lovely. You've got obviously Unit. See, this is the other thing, you've got great elements, but Unit sort of disappear after episode 2.
Yeah.
Or is it even episode 1? That, you know, I'm thinking this is John's last story, and Unit have been such a massive part of his era they're hardly in it, really, are they? Apart from, so after the chase sequence, they kind of take a bit of a back seat, don't they?
Yeah.
And then we get the brig just pops up at the end. So, again, I felt like units should have been in it a bit more for Jon's last story somehow. That could have definitely helped pad out a couple of the episodes, because the cliffhangers as well for episodes 4 and 5 are dreadful. I mean, this is Jon's last story, and they're really, really weak cliffhangers, aren't they? And I think, especially between episodes 5 and 6, you can tell that the episode's underrunning, because there's this weird thing going on with the editing where the original cliffhanger's sort of 5 minutes before where it should have been. So they've had to find a new cliffhanger. Can't really find one, so we'll just end on that. And then in the next episode, we get the same scenes played again, but with extra scenes in between, because they've had to chop the episodes up. And it's really weird. It's very sort of I suppose at the time, you probably wouldn't have noticed because you didn't have DVDs. You would have just been watching it, and you could only ever watch it once, and you probably wouldn't have thought anything of it. But, when you've watched it a couple of times, there's a weird thing going on with the editing, because you can tell the episodes are underrunning, and they're trying to chop them up to, find a good place to end them. And it doesn't, again, that doesn't help.
Yeah, that's because the stuff that they had shot for episode 5, which was a bunch of special effects work, Barry Letts just hated it afterwards.
Oh, right.
So that special, I assume it was the blue screen stuff, maybe. But apparently, they shot a bunch of special effects based scenes. Barry Letts was like, no way. So they chopped it, and then that leaves a gap, because you have to fill the time slot exactly. So what do? There's nothing it can do, really. They just have to go back and sort of shoehorn in a bunch of stuff. Yeah, it does seem weird, though, because I thought we normally get a little recap of about 45 seconds to a minute at the start of each episode from 2 onwards, which is just... it happens with all of Classic Who, doesn't it? You always get that minute or 45 seconds where you have it replays the cliffhanger, or shortly after that. But for that one, I was like, okay. I remember the first time I watched it, I thought there was a problem with the disc. I thought, am I playing is it playing the previous episode again? And then you're right, it does this weird thing where it intersects other scenes, and you're like, okay, not sure what's happening. But then it just gets back on track like nothing's happened. Yeah. So you've got this weird little 2.5 minute thing of just weirdness. So it is weird. But you make a very good point, though, I think, because it's Jon's last story, you would have thought that they would have gone all out on a few things. You would have thought that, let's say for argument's sake, they were aware of the quote-unquote formula for Classic Who that's more than 3 or 4 parts, where you do have typically a strong opener. It might dip down a little bit in the middle, but then the ending builds up and it's very cool. You would have thought that they would have kind of stuck to that and really nailed it in those final 2 episodes to sort of give him such a good, strong, explosive story to go out on. And I think that's a contributor to why it doesn't really feel like it's up there with the other, bona fide classics. And when you look at the ratings as well, the ratings kind of reflect that. So it opened with 10.1 million viewers, which is kind of astonishing. But then it dips down like you would expect it to do. But then part 5 at 9.2, so it dips down to like 8.2 million. Then it jumps up to 9.2 for part 5, because people are expecting, because they've been used to that with Classic Who, they're expecting that build up now, the final 2 episodes. So part 5, they're expecting that, right, now it's going to ramp up and get serious. And then we're going to come back for part 6 and have the conclusion. But because it's part 5 is just really, really slow and ploddy, the viewers drop back down again to 8 point something for the finale. So I think that also reflects potentially the issue with the storytelling. It doesn't have that big enough build up, as you said earlier, into the final conclusion from part 5. But it's just so weird that they didn't do anything about that, even in the planning or as they were going through it. Surely, because we've got some masterminds here for Doctor Who, even though Robert Holmes wasn't involved. I think this is the first story that Barry Letts, either as producer or director, has worked on a story that Robert Holmes hasn't written. So even though Robert Holmes wasn't involved, somebody like Barry Letts or the other people involved surely would have been like, this doesn't feel strong enough. This doesn't feel like, and then when the viewers dropped off, they were like, oh crap, yeah, we probably should have done more in part 6.
I'm surprised, actually. Yeah, you're right, because you've got, Barry Letts, and I'm thinking Terrance Dicks you would have thought would be the man to just step in and tweak these things, because, Terrance just got Doctor Who, and especially third, Pertwee's era, he just understood it brilliantly. So, yeah, it's surprising they didn't sort of, I think, bring in a bit more of like Unit and the other stuff, because that whole chase sequence is just for John. They've put that in there just for Jon Pertwee, because they know he loves that sort of stuff. So it's surprising that towards the end of this story they don't give more of that. I don't know how. I mean, because Barry Letts, I think, wrote quite a bit of this uncredited, didn't he? And I think Terrance Dicks obviously contributed, but I don't know how quickly they had to write it, or because originally, it was something called The Final Game, wasn't it? It was going to be the big finale to the series with Roger Delgado's master sacrificing himself to save the Doctor's life. It was going to be a really epic story to end the season. Of course, as we know, Roger Delgado sadly was killed in a car accident, I think, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So that story was abandoned. So I don't know if that plays a part in it. I don't know how far that story ever got to come in to be made. I don't know how much of it was written. So I don't know if this was a sort of rushed script in a sense. That might be why, but I mean, I don't know. It's when you read that, this story, The Final Game, you just think that's the story that Pertwee's Doctor sort of deserved to go out on, because he's battled the Master so many times throughout his era. It's almost ludicrous, really. But because Roger Delgado's Master's so good, you forgive it, because you don't care that you've seen him a million times. You just love Delgado's Master. So it would have been epic, I think, for Pertwee's Doctor to have gone out like that. And an interesting twist as well of it was sort of going to be left unsaid whether the Master actually, saved the Doctor's life or whether he did it by accident. But you kind of felt like he'd actually done it, because when it came down to the wire, he couldn't bring himself to kill the Doctor, really. The whole thing with the Master, I think that Terrance Dicks says, is that the Master loved the cat and mouse game. He never really wanted to kill the Doctor, otherwise why light a fuse on a bomb that's 10 feet long? If he wanted to kill the Doctor, he could do it. and vice versa. It's all about the game. So, when it came down to the wire, the Master could never actually do it. So I think that would have been the way you'd want the Third Doctor era to end, but it just wasn't to be because of what happened in real life, really. So I don't know, that probably plays a part in this story and how this one ended up being what it is.
Yeah.
And it's still a good story. I think that's the thing. If it wasn't John's last sort of story, it'd still be considered a great story, wouldn't it? You'd say, oh, the one with the spiders, that's a good one. But because it's John's last, you want just that little bit more from it, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree, dude. Totally.
Yeah.
I think there's also a slight distraction as well, because again, they did some firsts with this one. It's the first time that the actual phrase and term regeneration is spoken about in Doctor Who. So obviously the Brigadier talks about it with Sarah Jane, and there's that scene where the Doctor and Sarah Jane are with Kanpo, the older Time Lord, when he's in his older.
Yes.
So that's the other thing. We've got another Time Lord in the mix. We're talking about regeneration and all that stuff. It's a little bit of a distraction as well, because that scene goes on for quite a long time. And it kind of sits at the back of your mind after that as well. That soon as he says to the Doctor, as soon as Campo says, you must face your fear, and the Doctor's face changes, and he's got that look of, and it flashes back, doesn't it, to when they, I think the Great One from before or something, when he was at Metebelis III and took the crystal, and, you know, she can see into his mind and see his fear and stuff, but we don't see it as a viewer. There's just something there that the Doctor's afraid of, which I assume is death. I assume he doesn't want to die, so to speak. Yeah. From that point onwards, it kind of plays in your mind because you know that it's a regen story for the Doctor. So you know that Pertwee's on his way out. You just don't know when it's going to come or what's going to happen. So as soon as they plant the seed in that scene, that's really part of what you're thinking about as the story then progresses. You're thinking, is this going to be the bit where he goes? Is that going to be the bit? And then you think, well, no, because they've got to play out all parts. So we can safely say that we've got him doing some karate chops and stuff up until part 6.
Yeah.
And then in part 6, you're definitely thinking, right, when's he going to go? What's going to happen? But like we said, they wait right up until the last minute, a little bit clumsy and stuff. But so I think there's a bit of a distraction as well with the whole regeneration thing, because we also see we see that the other Time Lord, who the Doctor considers a bit of a mentor, I suppose they put it across as. We see him regenerate weirdly. Now this is weird because this particular Time Lord hasn't wanted anybody to see him in his old frail state. So he's projected the image of Choji, and that's who they interact with, but Choji's not really real. But then when Kanpo regenerates at the end, he turns into Choji. So it's almost like this particular Time Lord has got control over what he wants to appear as his next form after he regenerates. So you've kind of got all that stuff going on as well. So I do think it provides a wee bit of it kind of takes you off the path to what the story is actually about, in a way. So I know we've been a little bit negative here, but there are some great things in the story, which we'll come on to now. But yeah, I think to round this off, it's not a true classic, but it is nearly there, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It feels like it's 90% there. It feels just like it needed one more sort of... it feels like it needed Terence to come in and say, right, Barry, let me see what you've got. Okay, we just need to do a few little tweaks here and there, and it would have been an absolute belter. And like you said, if it sounds like I'm being negative, when I get to my score, you'll realise I do still really enjoy this story. I do really like it. It's just there are things about it that sort of slightly frustrate me. And I think things that I can't understand, decisions to do with the story that I can't quite understand in terms of the way it flows. Because it almost feels like a puzzle that you've put all the bits together, but you've accidentally put a couple of bits in the wrong place, but they still fitted. You know what I mean? It just feels like it needed to go back and go, oh, silly me, that should be there. That's better. That just is, just flows. So yeah, that's just how I feel when I watch it. Really, it's just it's good, but it could have been great. I think.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. So, what did you think? Let's talk about some cast members then. Actually, no. Let's talk about the spiders first, just quickly. So the other thing that I found a little bit odd is that although it's a story about spiders, we don't typically see anything arachnid going on, if that makes sense. You would expect them to, maybe it was a limitation, I guess, of the physical effects that they could do at the time, but they certainly had no money to make animatronic spiders or anything like that, so they can only really do them as like moving in a straight line, and then when they're talking they just raise up and down
when they're on that table.
Yeah. But having said that, it still doesn't feel very... Because it had the potential to be a real horror-esque, scary story. Because for somebody like my wife, for example, who's absolutely terrified of spiders, I think she would sit through this quite comfortably. I don't think there's anything in there that's really... Like, normally with spider stories, it's like a combination of like the big fangs at the front. You get the close-up of all the eyes that look menacing. There's cobwebs everywhere. You don't really get any of that for a spider story. They focus more on... They kind of just sound like humans. It's more just... you know what I mean? It's more just these spiders could have well have just been another cast of human actors. It didn't have to be anything. I know the distinction is there, like... we need some kind of monster because it's Doctor Who, and spiders are a natural, frightening thing for a lot of people. But I feel like it just wasn't quite... Yeah, but So I love the concept of that. I love like Planet of the Spiders, but the title's a little bit misleading as well because we only go there a couple of times. The rest of the time it's all on Earth, isn't it? And it's stuff like that. So the spiders, I was kind of, I understand that due to the limitations, they look as good as they can do, but I just felt like they needed to be scarier. They needed to have that more like play on the fears that a lot of humans have naturally of spiders and stuff. You don't really get that. I think they were trying to do more of a mental fear, like the spiders controlling your mind and mind control, like the scene with Liz Sladen when she's controlled. Really scary. That was good, but the rest of it,
yeah. Because I'm the same. I spiders creep me out. So when I watch this, the spiders look better than I remembered in terms of the actual props. The problem is they're so static, so they're not really creepy. And I was thinking the same. I was thinking, really, I should be creeped out by this because even the sight of spiders makes me go a bit but I'm not. There's no sort of fear or creepiness at all from these spiders, and I think it's not down to the actual look of them, which is what I previously thought. I think they've done a good job in making them for the time, but it's just the fact, the way they're shot, and just the limitations, like you said, like the fact they have to put them on these tables. Because the actors have got to talk to them. I don't know what else they could have done. They've got to raise them up somehow. So they're just these spiders sat on the table having a little conversation, and it just doesn't make them scary. And I think one of the people involved in the production said, it's the set and the lighting, and the way it's shot. Like they probably could have looked quite creepy, because the only bits where I do find them creepy, well, really, it's just that scene you mentioned, I think, when it's on Sarah's back. That's the only bit that makes my shoulders go up a bit.
Yeah.
There's something about that I do find that's the bit that actually freaks me out. If we'd have had more of that, they would have been more of a threat, I think. Because that's brilliant. Because even thinking about it, that does send a shiver. Yeah. But the voices as well, I can't make up my mind, because the very first time I watched this, the voices just ruined it for me. I was like, the voice, why have they done that? It's too comedic. Over time, I've sort of grown to like it, but it doesn't make them scary. That's the thing. I think only the one at the end, the Queen one, when she's going mad, I think that's the only bit where I quite like it, because she's just really going crazy, isn't she?
Yeah,
but,
she's going mad,
I think the voices perhaps weren't quite right either, to be honest. I don't know. I've grown to, as I said, I really didn't like it the first time I watched it, but over the years I've kind of got used to it, I suppose. I think I've sort of grown to like it for what it is, the voice. But yeah, I don't know, maybe a more whispery, quite creepy voice would have been better.
I think
to make them more too scary. Just quickly, what I remember, I didn't realise that until rewatching this yesterday, Kevin Lindsay, who played Cho-ji, the projection, the guy who turns up at the end. I didn't realise he was Lynx. Played Lynx in what's it? The other third Doctor story, the Sontaran one, Time Warrior. Yeah, he was Lynx, the Sontaran in the Time Warrior.
Ah,
I didn't realise that was him.
No.
Yeah. So Sontaran out of his casing there.
Yeah.
But,
oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't realise that was him.
Yeah, no, I agree on the spiders, dude. Very static and just a bit, and the voices as well. Yeah, don't know, but you can absolutely see though when you go back and watch Classic Who, you can definitely tell that Russell is just a huge fan of all the details from Classic Who, because in Turn Left, where we have the beetle on the back,
yes, 100%.
Yeah, and it disappears and you can't see it exactly the same, and then it's controls to a degree and stuff. So yeah, you can definitely see the influences that come through. And you don't necessarily put two and two together. I mean, when you were watching Turn Left, you probably thought, oh, that was like the spiders in Planet of the Spiders. But it's not until you go back and watch it properly that you get the mind link and all, it's very cool. But it was, the other thing that was kind of cool that they should have used a bit more was the power that the spiders gave the humans that they linked up with. So there was, in a similar way that Classic Q does with the special effects as well as the physical stuff sometimes, is that the physical stuff is quite static, as you said, but even the visual effects, like when the actors just put their hand out and the lightning, comes out of it, that seems very laboured. It's like a big setup where it's just a static camera on them, and they take a big step forward and thrust their arm out, but there's no immediate lightning. It's like a second delay.
Yeah.
And then it happens, so all that happened. There's one scene, isn't there, where the 4 dudes in the monastery have all got the spiders on, because the spider's like, okay, we'll go back, but we'll trick them. So they don't come back on the big thing on the floor, the big illustration thing. And then they inhabit the bodies of the guys. And there's a bit where all 4 of them are having a crack at Tommy. And he's standing guarding the door to the cellar. And they all individually sort of do the lightning and stuff. And
do
he's
the
like,
Emperor Lightning, from Star Wars.
Yeah, and then they all team up. They all like hum and a hummy hum, and then they get the big power. That does nothing either. And it's like, come on, just get the big lightning out. Because the spiders are doing their nut. They're like, concentrate, concentrate, and the guys are like, all right, cool. But Tommy, he's resilient. Old Tommy, he's been exposed to the crystal. Yeah. He's good. What do you think to Tommy then? Because he was an interesting character that you kind of felt sorry for most of the story. But then when he sort of becomes like Tommy 2.0, he's like, sorry, he's very confident and he's strong and he's really nice to Sarah Jane, and he just comes into his own. Like it's, but then on the other side of the coin, it is kind of, you do almost wish him to go back to, because like you said earlier, that lovely scene where she's like, you're normal, and he's like, I hope not. So, but yeah, he was an interesting character, and I think he was needed because they really needed some variation, because all the guys in the monastery, they're all the same. Like, middle-aged white guy, come to the monastery to do this thing, and they all talk the same, they've all got the same views, and they've all got the same goals and everything. So I think he was really needed to shake things up a bit. He was good.
Yeah, no, he is. He brings something to the story, definitely, doesn't he? I think it's a lovely character, and I can't think that we've seen anyone like that in Doctor Who, particularly up to this point. I can't think of any other character that's sort of, portrayed like that, particularly. So I think it's a lovely character. I think it's a really nice performance from John Kane, who played Tommy. And it's lovely. It's just great. I felt really sorry for him because you instantly warm towards the character, and when he is getting thunderbolted towards the end, you're like, no, leave Tommy alone. You are actually getting engaged in the story and wanting him to survive, so it's a good character and a great performance. No,
he was good for sure. What do you think to Lupton then, the main the main dude with the crazy hair that gets a bit doesn't look as neat for a lot of the episode because he looks run ragged. Yeah. I quite like Lupton. I don't know. He's the sort of actor that's got this great face, isn't he? He just looks sort of villainous, but also you sort of feel a bit sorry for him, really, because he really looks like he's put through the ringer by that blooming spider, doesn't he? He looks like he's had a bad day. I don't know. I thought it was a decent performance from, is it Jon Pertwee? Not sure how you say his surname. Jon Pertwee, yeah.
Pertwee, yeah. I thought it was a good performance from him. As I said, I just thought he had this look about him as well, which was quite engaging and stuff. But yeah. I like it when he stands up for himself as well, because he's quite weak to begin with, isn't he? The spider's like giving him a bit of a hard time. Yeah. And he's and then he sort of seems to find a bit of a backbone, start standing up for himself, which of course gets him killed. But I thought he was all right. I quite liked Lupton.
Yeah, he made me laugh. He was on that verge of really hamming it up in some places.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, he does this. I mean, we have that nice little speech where he was basically a salesman, wasn't he? And he got fired, and now he's worked hard to establish some kind of power, and he's on the verge of getting all the power, and he's going to control the Earth and the universe and stuff. So as he's going through those scenes, especially when he's like sort of trying to put his authority to the spiders and stuff. He's approaching kind of chewing the woodwork a little bit.
Yeah.
He's got that very kind of classic British old school villain vibe about him. So yeah, but I'm not sure if the story would have needed that or not. I can't decide because he's kind of okay as he is. But I would like to have seen him just really go for it in a couple of scenes.
You feel like he's going to, don't you? You're like, he's building up to it and it never really happens, which is a bit of a shame. I'd like to have seen that as well.
Yeah, because there's a couple of bits where, you're right. You get to that point where he's like, right, he's gonna blow his top in a minute.
Yeah.
And he's really going to go for it. But then he just sort of puts his hands in his pockets and he's like, we'll revisit this plan later. And then somebody else barging is like, you fool! And then he gets the ump again. So he's a bit up and down. But yeah, I don't know. He just, like the story, he sort of gets to 90% and then sort of clocks back a bit and he's just...
Fizzles out.
Yeah.
Did you notice him slip over in the mud?
Yeah.
He's like, shall I go again? No. Leave it. Yeah. No one will notice. When it's in the chase sequence and he goes flying.
Yeah, it's really funny though when they're all standing around. So the Whomobile's there, Bessie and stuff. They think he's done a runner. How did they not know that he was getting back into the little helicopter? Because they're all standing there, and one of them...
Oh, I know, yeah.
He has time to run up to the helicopter, put their helmet on, get in, start the engine up, and it's only then they all turn around like, oh no.
Oh, I know, he's in the
helicopter. It's brilliant, because they're standing in a circle, so one of them must have been looking directly at the helicopter. But
I did think that.
One of those quirky little sort of things where, as a director, probably Robert Sloman's like, right, we know that you're probably going to see him. If this was in real life, you'd see him. But for dramatic effect, we need it to be a surprise. So just carry on chatting amongst yourselves. Don't pay any attention to John Dirth. He's going to get in the chopper. And then when I'll give you the cue, then turn around and look surprised. It must have been that kind of...
shocked face, yeah.
The shocked faces, yeah. But it was kind of cool, though. But what did you think to the Whomobile? I was talking about those vehicles, and we spoke about that little helicopter. That was a weird little... thing, wasn't it? It was like a James Bond concept car that just flunked out of the ideas phase, and it's just been left in a studio somewhere. And Doctor Who's like, I will have that. That's perfect.
I think the Whomobile's an odd one, isn't it? Because I don't know. Didn't Jon Pertwee have it custom made? Wasn't it actually Jon Pertwee's car? I'm sure he had it custom made. Because I don't know. The thing is with Jon Pertwee is he does tell stories and they get more exaggerated every time he tells them, so I'm never quite sure what the true story is, but I think I'm right in saying Jon Pertwee had that thing built for himself and then said to Barry, we need to have this in the show, Barry. And Barry was like, yeah, it's great, let's have it in the show. I think that's the sort of gist of it anyway, but I don't know, it's very of its time, isn't it? I bet back in what would this have been, 1974? I bet back then it looked, you saw this on the screen, you're like, wow, look at the Doctor's futuristic car. It's amazing. And it kind of looks a bit of its time now, but it's classic, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's one of those things, I think if I was watching this as a kid back in 1974, I would have loved the Whomobile. It would have been like, I would have wanted one. I would have wanted to go flying in it. It just would have been, so futuristic, I think.
Yeah.
But now I suppose it's easy to look at it and think, oh god, that looks ridiculous.
Looks a bit weird, doesn't it? Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was Jon Pertwee's car, because I remember him saying he kept getting stopped by the police, and then he'd open the visor and they'd be like, oh, it's Jon Pertwee, off on your way, sort of thing. I don't know. But if you had a choice, if I said to you, there's the car park, Gary, you can either take, we're going to a convention, you can either take Bessie, or you can take the Whomobile. I'm afraid the helicopter's out of action. Which would you have, Bessie or the Whomobile?
I'm going to go with Bessie.
You go Bessie?
Yeah.
Classic Bessie.
Yeah. I think I'd be too confined and claustrophobic in the Whomobile.
Yeah, it's got that funny visor front in it. I just imagine you'd open it up and there'd be some sort of disco balls and, I don't know, like a little drinks cabinet and, I don't know, something, yeah. I'm not sure. I'd probably go with Bessie, but I like the Whomobile.
Yeah.
It's a bit of its time, but it's classic.
Yeah, you're right, though. I think Pertwee had it as just one of his own cars, didn't he?
Yeah, I'm sure he tells the story that it was his.
Yeah, he kept it after he left. He just kept it. Same number plate as well. Was it HVO or 2 or something like that? Yeah.
Yeah.
But apparently the Brig's miffed about that because the Brig alludes to the fact that the Doctor had used unit funds to make Bessie and the Whomobile.
Which is great, isn't it?
Yeah.
I tell you, I wish Nick Courtney was in this more, because the first couple of episodes when he's with the Doctor, especially episode 1, when they're at the theatre, it kind of starts with that, doesn't it? Just the relationship between those two is so brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah,
and Nick Courtney is just so relaxed in playing the role, and him and Pertwee, you just see the friendship coming through on screen, don't you? They're just sat there delivering this laid-back, brilliant performance of the Brig enjoying what we don't see any of it, but there's obviously been some, woman on stage, is a bit, he's enjoyed that scene and the Doctor's teasing him about it. It's a really great friendship between those two. And then they bring in Professor Clegg, who's this clairvoyant in brackets, and that's all great. I just wish the Brig was in it more, because I love those early scenes with him and the Doctor. There's a real fun cheekiness, because there's a bit where Clegg starts talking about the Brig's. So he starts talking about what is it? He says, "Oh, there was a girl called Doris or something." And the that's enough. The Brig's like, "That's enough." And the Doctor's like, "Yes, I think maybe too much, Brigadier." Lovely scenes like that,
Brilliant,
and that's what you want from Pertwee's last story, isn't it? It's great scenes like that.
Yeah, he's just great,
so I
man.
wish he was in it a bit more. Clegg, by the way, just while we're talking about him, I love Professor Clegg.
Oh, he was brilliant, wasn't he?
I love it when we get a nutty professor in Doctor Who, and I love it even more when they play it kind of straight. It's just a great performance. Again, it's not doing the whole, "Oh, look at me, I'm bonkers, I'm a professor." It's not over the top. It's a great performance from Cyril Shaps, isn't it?
Cyril Shaps, yeah. They should have gone with his real name. It's a cool, quirky guy. Yeah.
But yeah, it's good, isn't he, Clegg? I love all the stuff when the Doctor's handing in the Sonic, and of course you would have winced because we see a Drashig, and Drashig makes an appearance. And then you get the bit with the Brig, which is funny, and then finally he gives him the crystal, which doesn't end well. But great character, Clegg, isn't he? Very nice performance.
Yeah, and a bit of a Doctor Who regular at this point. So he was in Tomb of the Cybermen, Ambassadors of Death, went on to do Androids of Tara. Yeah, when we reviewed Androids of Tara, we said, didn't we? Oh, we recognise that guy. What has he been in?
Oh yeah, I forgot he was in that. Yeah,
but no, he was very cool, and he played that kind of sheepish. Oh no, nothing's wrong here. It's just a magician just earning the money sort of thing, and it's quite funny that he masks his because he knows why he's there. So why have you brought me here? Do you want a private show, sort of thing? And even though he knows because of his clairvoyancy and his powers and stuff, which the Doctor knows that he's got, he still tries to sheepishly sort of like, "Oh no, everything's fine here. It's just really cool." But that scene with him, the Doctor and the Brig, it's really, really good.
I love it. I love that.
Really good stuff. Yeah,
just fun, isn't it? Fun, and it's fun, but it's also progressing the story. It's also giving us more information about what's going on in the story. So it's just really nicely written scene, that.
Yeah, I just can't believe that the crystal was sent to the Doctor in a jiffy bag. I just can't get my head around that.
Yeah.
Like the most important thing in the universe at this point.
Not even recorded delivery.
No, not even a signature needed.
Not even tracked.
Yeah, I think, isn't it Benton that comes in and is like, "Oh, by the way, this person just bit of post for you, Doctor." It's just weird, isn't it? Because I think Benton, he does a little. He comes in and cracks a little joke, doesn't he? There's that whole scene there. It's about 15 minutes of all of them. There's just so much bants going on because Benton comes in and he's like, "Oh, is this another line of work for you, Doctor?" And then Brig's like, "Benton." He's got that sort of, this is business, no laughing about sort of thing. And he's like, "Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there." It's all bants, isn't it?
It's brilliant. So and again, Benton's hardly in it, but a great scene, isn't it? Just those guys, you can. It's an end of an era, isn't it? You can just tell that they all got on so well. It's yeah, it's just nice to see.
Many pints down the local with those lot, I think.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And Pertwee nabbing little mementos from the set, I bet, before he left. Right, what can I have?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to touch on Liz Sladen quickly then? Because
yeah, we should. Yeah.
Yeah, because she has a really good story. She's in it a lot as well. She's yeah, she has a decent part to play in it. And right from the beginning, when Yates calls her and it's like, come and have a look, something dodgy's going on, she's just up for it. I love that about her character, which we see right up until the end of the Sarah Jane adventures. She's always up for it. If there's something that's not quite right, she's there. And even Yates is surprised. He's like, no, what are you doing? I'll handle this bit. You need to leave, sort of thing. Throws her out the window, and she's like, no, I can help. And then she gets mixed up with it a lot more, obviously, but just solid as always. Really good from her.
Yeah, it is good. I mean, it's interesting to see Yates back as well, isn't it? I mean, again, playing the part. I like the fact he's playing it differently. You can tell it's a different version of Yates. He's trying to redeem himself. That's interesting. They're doing something different with the character, and he works really well with Liz at the start. But yeah, it's a nice performance from Liz Sladen. As I said, I think that shot of the spider on her back is iconic. She plays the fear really well. I much prefer Sarah Jane with the Fourth Doctor. I just find their relationship is they seem to bond better. So I although I like Sarah Jane with the Third Doctor, I never really feel that warmth between them that we get later on with Tom. I think they work well together, and it's really touching when the Doctor's regenerating. You can tell that Sarah Jane is, she really cares about Doctor, but I don't know, it doesn't have the same Doctor companion vibe as like the Third Doctor and Joe Grant, or even the Third Doctor and Carol Ann John. I can't think of the character's name. Liz Shaw. So it doesn't quite. I never feel that they gel as well.
Mm-hmm.
The Third Doctor and Sarah Jane. They just don't seem to have that relationship. But I think a lot of that is down to the fact that Sarah Jane's a much stronger character. I think, whereas the others, the Doctor's very much sort of the grandfather looking after the companion figure. Maybe not so much with Liz Shaw, but definitely with Joe Grant. But with Sarah Jane, she's such a strong character that you don't really feel the Doctor's warmth towards her, because he doesn't need to look after her. She can look after herself. So, there's a different dynamic there, I think is what I'm trying to say. And I much prefer her with Fourth Doctor. But, yeah, still really great performance from Liz Sladen in this, yeah.
No, I totally agree, dude. Yeah, I prefer the Third Doctor with Joe. That's
definitely
the best team up for those two. And yeah, you're right. I think Sarah Jane's probably at her best with Tom.
She works well with Tom.
Yeah.
Just talking to Tom, don't you think, I'm surprised they get him in to do the regen scene, and they literally just get him to lie on the floor. And like you said, he's on screen for 2 seconds at the most. Surely he could have at least sat up or had a line.
It's no different to Davison, though, is it?
Yeah, that's what I mean. But at least Davison sort of sat up, and you got to look at him. You just get this 1-2 second shot of Tom's nose, and I just kept thinking, at least like sit up, or Davison just sits up and looks around. It's like, oh, there's our new Doctor. But with Tom, you barely even register, and because they've made him look like Pertwee with the hair and everything, you can barely tell he's changed. I don't know. I just think.
No, Rita. It's a bit lackluster. He should have had a line, or at least acknowledge the people in the room with him. Like,
I think if you just sat up and just gone, hello, in the Tom way, just anything. I just want to see Tom at the end. But
no, Rita.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I've got nothing else on my list to go through other than Dudley Simpson's music was kind of cool for the most part, but there isn't a lot of music in it, and the music that is in it's quite repetitive, but it's okay for the most part.
I didn't even notice the music at all, which is really odd. I can't even think of it, which might be a good thing, because it might mean it just complemented what was on screen. I really didn't notice the music at all in this one.
Yeah, it uses a similar theme like throughout every episode, really.
Yeah. Can't really think of it. I like all the 8 legs and 2 leg stuff. No, the only other thing I'd got on my thing was the CGI. I know Barry Letts loved CGI. I think it was such a new thing back then. It's a bit like CG. It's not CGI. Sorry, Barry Letts loved CSO.
CSO, yeah, I know what you mean.
CSO. It's a bit like CGI now, isn't it? Just way overused. I mean, I am not a fan of CGI at all. So I think that the problem is with CGI, it dates very quickly, and the same can be said for CSO. There's a lot of CSO scenes during Jon Pertwee's era. Mm-hmm. But again, I think back then it would have been like, this is great. We can put an actor in any scene. It just doesn't, unfortunately, date that well. But yeah.
I read you. All right, dude, it's time for scores. I think it's me to go first this week.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
So I'm going to give this a 7, around 7 for me. I think it's a good story. Don't get me wrong, it is a good story, but it's just there's a few things in it that just stop it from going up into the 8s and 9s. Definitely not a 10, but yeah, just a few things that stop it. So it's a solid story, a good Third Doctor one, but not anywhere near his prime. Some of his other stories. Yeah.
No, it's good. I mean, I'm stuck between a 7.5 and an 8 because 7.5 seems too low, and 8 seems too high. But I'm going to go with an 8, and just because of the performances, and I think there is a good storyline there. So I'm really, I'm 2 points away from being a classic. So I'm going to go with an 8.
Okay, fair dues, dude. So an 8 from him. 7 from me. Let's have a look to see what our awesome listeners thought. So let's go to our audio reviews. We had 4 in this week. Ooh. First one, our usual reviewer from Down Under, it's Sammy Satine.
G'day, Gary and Adam, Sammy Satine here. So, Planet of the Spiders, or Metebelis III, or perhaps Planet of the 8 Legs. Voiced by 3 different women, Maureen Morris, the wife of the late great Roger Delgado, Kismet Delgado, and the hermaphrodite hexapod herself, Usain Churchman. I like Tommy. He's such a sweetheart. There are many things I love about this story. Sarah Jane, the Brigadier, Sergeant Benton, Captain Yates, Choji, Tommy, the Venusian Aikido, Bessie, and of course, Ruffles! Character, please make a Third Doctor wearing his Planet of the Spiders outfit, please! I love this outfit. The regeneration is very Ruffles. Very classy and honestly emotional. This one makes me feel sad because I love Ruffles. I give it 10 blue crystals out of 10. See ya.
Sammy straight in with the 10.
10 blue crystals, yes.
Nice. Yeah, I know what you mean, Sammy. It does have that kind of emotional feel because it's Pertwee's last one and he's on his way out. But I'm glad you like it though. A 10. And we know you like Ruffles, Sammy. We know you're a big fan of the old of the Pertwee. So thank you very much from Sammy, a 10 there. Let's see what Joe thinks. Joe Turner.
Sorry I didn't do an audio review, guys, last week. I've just been really busy, but it was sad to finish SJA. What a show. Anyway, Planet of the Spiders. Like SJA, it stars the wonderful Liz Sladen. She's fabulous in this story, and her relationship with John really blossoms. The story as a whole is a bit slow in places, but at least we get an entire story dedicated to Metebelis III. Overall, I love Pertwee's regeneration. It's very subtle with some fantastic, iconic lines, sacrificing his life for the benefit of the universe. I feel like this story would have benefited from having more scenes on Earth, but not in the same old house. And the idea as a Doctor's teacher was very interesting, and it's always nice to hear more information about the Doctor's past. There's some amazing chase sequences. The Whomobile is so good, along with the mini helicopter, and there was lots of ums. So overall, I'm going to give this episode a 7 out of 10. It's nothing too amazing, but it's just a good solid episode of Who, and one in which I think really does Pertwee justice. Thank you.
Cheers, Joe.
A 7 from Joe. Yeah, you're right. It does. It does slow down in places, but yeah, we do get the opportunity to see all the people back together, the brig and unit and everything like that. So that's not a bad score. Same for me, Joe. A 7. Nice one, dude. Moving on. This is Neil Campbell.
What about you fellas? How's it going? So, Planet of the Spiders. I'm not going to lie. When I was a kid, I always hated watching this because it was the end of my favourite era in Doctor Who, and the Third Doctor is my favourite Doctor. He always has been and always will be. And, I mean, it's just something that's always quite sad. And I think the actual story itself, it's okay, there's a bit of padding in it. And 6 episodes is probably too long, but I think they're trying to include as much as they possibly can, sort of like as a fanfare farewell for the Third Doctor. I mean, you have car chases, you've the chase in the sky, you have the hovercraft chase and stuff. Do you know what I mean? It makes Jon Pertwee look brilliant. And, Lupton's a cool villain. at least Mike Yates gets a bit of redemption. The spiders themselves, the CGI is not great, but at the time I think it's a good job. But I think at the end, the third Doctor, he went out in a high, he faced his fears, and also on top of that, that line where the TARDIS brought me home, I thought that was quite nice, considering the third Doctor was always trying to get away from Earth. And one last thing, I think it wasn't very often back then that you would have had story arcs, and that whole crystal, the blue crystal from Metebelis III, started, in the Green Death, and here we are. It sealed the third Doctor's fate in the end. So there you go. I'm going to give us a 9 out of 10. Cheers, fellas.
A 9.
A 9, and I love that line actually. The TARDIS brought me back, or brought me home.
Brought me home. Yeah. Even though they had been cruising around the time vortex for a while. Yep. She got there in the end. A 9 from Neil. Nice one, dude. Yeah. I think everyone will talk about the chase scenes more than the spiders when we talk about Planet. Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you very much, Neil. And lastly, this is Martin Arnold.
Quickly to the Whomobile, and then to hovercraft, and then the motorbike, then the Whomobile, and then half the episode's over. Wow, I love the Whomobile. So did Jon Pertwee, apparently. It's a shame that whoever had the bright idea of inventing the thing came up with it at the very, very last minute for the last episode of the character before he regenerates. Oh well. Planet of the Spiders is a great episode. It works really well. It doesn't really sag, and I think it's a very strong story. We get to Metebelis III again, sort of. I think he goes there before, doesn't he? There's this whole thing. It's a bit like the Eye of Orion with Peter Davison. He's always talking about Metebelis III, and then at the last minute he goes there, and it's a planet ruled by evil spiders, which is tautological but true. Lupton's a curious villain because he's not really like an intergalactic mastermind. He's just an angry bloke. And you'd think that going to a place to meditate would make you a sort of chilled out, easygoing character, but he's just this angry bloke who just meditates and gets even more angry in the practice. It's really odd watching them get really aggressively into the chanting. Good to see Mike Yates back again, or Captain Yates, although probably at this point it probably is Mike Yates. He sort of redeems himself, then goes off, I guess, to have his own adventures. It's a really good story. I don't quite like the Buddhist character, the sort of Time Lord guy. That felt a bit shoehorned in just to sort of spice up the regeneration. Then we meet Tom Baker, who I hope goes on to have a really good career. This is a good episode. I'm going to give it 8 out of 10 though. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. See you next time.
Nice one, Martin. I hope he goes on to have a nice career.
Yeah, whatever happened to that Tom Baker?
Yeah. But yeah, you make some interesting points, Martin. I like the one about the Whomobile and stuff, and coming up with this cool stuff that they probably should have done earlier on in Jon's era. But then right at the very end, when he's on his way out, we'll just put in all the cool stuff, like the Whomobile and stuff. And so yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
I just got visions of them like building it and for the show, and Jon just driving off in it and then never getting it back. Just like, dude, I'm sure you were building this for me. What?
Yeah, nice one, Martin. So that was an 8 from Martin, I think. Yeah. So some decent scores from our audio reviewers. As always, thank you very much, you guys, for taking the time to do that. Let's jump quickly over to the socials. On Twitter, our writer Jordan says, good, if a little overrated. Pertwee is just excellent, and Liz Sladen is amazing as always. Thought this would be better, though, as a 4-parter.
Yeah, it probably would.
It does show how selfless the third Doctor is, sacrificing himself for the universe, and his regeneration scene is heartbreaking. Dan Fox, one of the most underrated stories. I know some people think the chase is pointless, but I love that Pertwee got to use the hovercraft and the Whomobile one last time. Creepy concept for the spider secretly being on the back, which no doubt inspired Turn Left. Dan gives it an 8 out of 10. Edward Galooly, a solid but overlong end to the Pertwee era, probably the weakest regen story of the classic stuff. 6.5. Sarah Louise, the running Whovian, says a fun story which was mostly engaging. Sarah Jane was as plucky as ever, and the Doctor's karate chops, an array of vehicle stunts, were entertaining. The chant scenes became annoying, though I did find the regen scene to be somewhat lackluster, almost an afterthought. She gives it a 7. And lastly, TARDISNet66, our mate Will, who normally sends in a review, says, an audio review, says, life has got in the way of sending an audio clip this week, but I feel this is a weak conclusion compared to the strong quality of most of Pertwee's run. Overlong and cluttered pacing and not enough focus for development in the right areas. Has its highlights though, but a 4 out of 10.
4? Blimey, Tyler.
4, yeah. And then over on Facebook, we had a few there. Some of them are quite long, so I'm just going to do these very quickly. Toby Coleman says, don't cry while there's life. Anyway, this story is great. It has an episode dedicated for a chase scene, which is so Pertwee that it barely seems filler. It goes on to give it a 7.5. Andrew Stewart gives a really long review. Guys, go and check out our Facebook page to read some of these. They're really good. But Andrew basically says, sorry, John, but you're my favourite Doctor. I just don't want you to go, in brackets, sob. And Planet of the Spiders is a really fun romp, and I loved it. He loves it. It goes on to give it a 9.5. Chris Vince says, I remember buying the DVD of this and watching it for the first time. This was my first classic Doctor Regen story, and it's also made me fall in love with Sarah Jane as a companion. I also adored the Brigadier's reaction to the upcoming regeneration. It is brilliant.
Yeah.
I love that. Charlie Turner says, why did you have to go? Anyway, perhaps the most fun regen story to date, and goes on to give it a 9 out of 10. Jeff Waddle says there's a good 4-parter in here, and that's probably what it was with one episode, almost completely a chase scene, and a reprise in episode 6 of almost 5 minutes. Would work better if it was set almost completely on Earth. The Meatballs 3 humans are woefully acted and bring little to the story. Spiders were creepy at the time though, not much so now, a 6 out of 10. And lastly, Aaron Ball says a good story. Part 2 is really fun but still pointless. Pertwee's regen is still one of my faves, and I love the 8 legs. Goes on to give it an 8 spiders out of 10.
Nice.
There we go. So thank you very much, guys, for all sending in your audio reviews and your social reviews and all that stuff. It's very much appreciated. Next week, dude, what we got?
Next week, so yeah, we'll be back to Torchwood with an episode called A Day in the Death. God, who's dying now?
I think this follows on from the storyline that we did before we went on our break. So this would have been Owen's, he died and stuff. So the last one we did was Dead Man Walking. So this is, I think, picks up from there. I think Owen's back, but he's a bit weird. Yeah.
More weird.
Yes. Right, let's stick a pin in it there, dude. Let's wrap it up for episode 314.
Hiya!
Thank you for coming back and listening to our show for another week. This is the Big Blue Box Podcast, episode 314. Thank you so much. It's been awesome to have you once again. Thank you again to our audio reviewers, Sammy, Joe, Neil and Martin, for sending in your audio clips. Very much appreciated. Next week, as Adam said, we are back to Torchwood, so A Day in the Death. So get your Blu-rays, DVDs out. And I think Torchwood is still on iPlayer in the UK, so get that watched on there as well, because we'll be asking for your thoughts and reviews as always. So that'll be next week for 315. In the meantime, we'd love to have you as a follower on whatever podcast app you listen to your podcasts on. You can listen to our show for free. They land every Friday. Just do a search for the Big Blue Box Podcast, or there are links on our website, which is the www.bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. And that will take you off to all of those apps and networks and stuff. But we're on all of them, all of those popular apps and everything. We're on all of those. And if you like the show and you want to give us a nice review and a rating, that would be really, really cool, and that helps us out loads. And you can do that on Apple Podcasts or Podchaser or Stitcher or those sorts of things. And thank you to all of you guys that have left reviews thus far. Very much appreciated. We are on the socials too, Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. There are links on the website. Come and give us a like and a follow over there so we can all chat Doctor Who throughout the week. And we also have a free Discord server, which has got a really cool growing community around the podcast. Our writers are on there as well. We all chat Doctor Who about various things. Come and sign up to that and do that. So links on the website, bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. Remember to check out Adam's channel as well over on YouTube. It is in fact The Geek's Handbag. Definitely The Geek's Handbag. Go and check out Adam's videos there. Still putting out content after all these years. Still loads of videos on Adam's channel. It's one of those channels where just grab a cup of tea or coffee, get comfy, and there's just hours and hours of geekery entertainment. So go and check it out. And Adam is on the socials too, under the same name, The Geek's Handbag.
Indeed.
Go and stalk him for a bit and give him a like and a follow. It's all good. Right, buddy, let's do it there. We will see you guys next week for episode 315. Until then, my name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And remember,